Hello and welcome to Hiblio TV. My name's Paul Norris and thanks for joining us. Loan sharks can seem friendly at first, but borrowing from them is never a good idea. Today's guest is Catherine from the Illegal Money Lending Service, England. We're going to talk to her about avoiding loan sharks, getting advice on your situation and find out about other ways to borrow money. Welcome, Catherine.
Hi.
Thanks for coming to today's show. You've travelled all the way down from the middle bit and if not a bit higher from England, so thank you very much for coming into today's broadcast. If you could just start by just telling the audience a bit about yourself and your role.
Sure, so my name's Kath. I'm the liaison manager with the England Illegal Money Lending team, and that means I manage a team of staff who do all the awareness raising and victim support for the team.
Great, great. So if we can just start up just to help people define what is a loan shark?
So a loan shark is someone who lends money without authorisation from the Financial Conduct Authority. So if you want to set up as a business lending money, you've got to go to them and get permission. They'll do various checks, they'll make sure you're a fit and proper person, you're not a criminal, you haven't got bankruptcy or anything like that. And they will make sure before they authorise you that you're okay to lend money. Loan sharks don't have that permission, which is a criminal offence.
Right, so is that different, just to help distinguish when I'm looking into the subject, payday lenders?
Payday lenders are authorised.
Right.
So companies who lend money over a short period of time are authorised by the FCA to do so. They're absolutely fine. We wouldn't touch those at all. We just deal with the illegal, unlicensed money lenders.
Okay, so who's targeted by loan sharks?
Absolutely anybody can be the victim of a loan shark. In the last year, we've had victims who are 19 to 74. There are trends that we see. We've seen nurses particularly at risk of borrowing. We've seen taxi drivers particularly at risk of borrowing. And currently we're seeing people who have gambling issues particularly at risk of borrowing from loan sharks. But it can literally be anybody. Loan sharks are very friendly, very plausible people, and it's very easy to get caught in their trap.
Because when I thought of the subject, I thought of those that are maybe in low-income situations, desperate families in that scenario, vulnerable people in our society almost preyed upon by these loan sharks that are offering a solution, but that isn't it, is it?
Absolutely, we do see that. We do see vulnerable people who've borrowed from illegal lenders, absolutely. But people can be vulnerable for a number of ways. You can be asset rich and cash poor. You can have short-term money issues. You can just be caught on a bad day. Loan sharks typically lend £300 or £400, and if you've had a bad day and someone down the pub offers to lend you that, seemingly with no strings attached, it's easy to see how people fall into the trap.
So the programme's about loan sharks. Now we're going to come on to, so why are they such a bad idea?
Loan sharks are horrendous. Basically, there's two main reasons why you should never borrow from a loan shark. The first is financial.
Right.
So we've seen APRs that loan sharks have charged in the millions of percentages.
So when you say the RPR, you mean the interest rates?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
What percentage?
4.2 million was one we prosecuted recently, percent APR, and that's not unusual. So you pay back an awful lot of money. Quite often they won't let you go. You think you've paid off a loan, they'll offer you another loan instantly. They'll charge you late payments when you weren't late. They don't give you paperwork, so you've got no way of tracking how much you've paid back and how ripped off you're being. Massive financial implications, and we tend to find loan shark victims will pay back the loan shark before their legitimate debts because he's turning up at the door, he's in their workplace, they know him in the community. They'll pay him and not pay the rent or the mortgage or the council tax, so they end up in massive financial problems because of this one person who's terrorising them for money. The other side of it is the emotional side of being a loan shark victim. We've seen people forced to the brink of suicide by these people because they basically, I call it psychological warfare. They find out what's important to you and then threaten it. So we had a lady on the south coast where he threatened to take her wheelchair if she didn't carry on paying. We've had people's children threatened, people where they've threatened to tell the employer, they've threatened to put them on a WhatsApp group, shame them on Facebook, all sorts of different issues about gaining control over people's lives.
So that borrowing comes at a high price, and I read on the Money Advice Service when we talk about that, about one woman who had borrowed £500 from a loan shark and ended up repaying £88,000.
It's not that unusual.
And that's the case study on the website. And we also talk, and you mentioned there, about the harassment that can come with it, about keeping up with your repayments and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. So we prosecute for every single offence we find. So as well as illegal lending, we'll prosecute for blackmail, we've prosecuted for kidnap, we've even prosecuted for rape in one case, because that's what the length the loan shark went to gain control over people's lives. The case study I use is a guy called Mike, who we work with in Suffolk. And Mike borrowed £250 for his first car. and he borrowed it off someone his wife went to school with, so a family friend.
Okay.
The deal was he paid back 5 times £50 the next 5 months when he got paid, which he did. 2 months later, he gets a knock on the door. You owe me money. I've paid you back. You owe me money, there's interest. But you never mentioned interest. Well, there was. You owe me another £200. Well, I haven't got £200. That's all right, I'll lend it to you. But that's subject to interest as well. Mike, when he came to us 17 years later, we worked out he'd repaid £90,000 for that original loan of £250 that he paid back as agreed. Now, in that time, he'd been beaten up in front of his children, he'd attempted suicide, he'd lost a job, he'd nearly lost his marriage because of this guy who was extorting him for money, turning up every Friday night and bleeding him dry. And you don't have to have very many victims if you're taking that much off them to make quite a lucrative business.
So there's almost a pressured circle here of almost borrowing more money, as you say, to pay off the original that you think you've cleared, and also changing the rates that you need to pay back without you knowing.
Absolutely. I mean, some loan sharks as well. You ask me if you want to borrow £600, I'll say I'll lend you £600, but I'm taking the first payment straight away, so you've only got £500. So you never actually even get the amount you asked for in the first place because they're immediately taking the money. We've even had loan sharks who won't lend you the money, they'll rent it to you. So you need to borrow £2,000, I'll rent it to you, but you can pay me £250 a week for the privilege, and that £2,000 is never coming down because you're not repaying the capital balance, you're just renting it. So until you can give me the full balance back, you just pay me £250 a week for absolutely nothing.
So these people are coming across as being friendly, plausible, tuning into what you hold dear.
Absolutely.
And then exploiting.
Yes, absolutely. Pure and simple, it is exploitation. And like I say, psychological warfare quite often. People sometimes say to us, why on earth would anyone go to a loan shark? But they don't walk around with a tabard on saying loan shark. Quite often they are very plausible, very charismatic people who are, you need some money, your washing machine's broken down, that's no problem, I'll lend it to you. And don't even mention interest rates or repayment plans or anything else. It's just a loan between a friend of a friend of a friend.
So with a bank, I know exactly how much I'm going to repay every single month, and I reach that point. I expect to pay some interest.
Yes.
And at the moment that could be around 3.5%, 4% for an interest. And it can get extortionate, some of those amounts. So you've got a team. The illegal money lending team.
Yes.
You must have some specialists in there.
We do. We have all sorts of different roles within the team. So we've got investigators. They're the ones that go around investigating the loan sharks, identifying them and prosecuting them. And so far we've got, touch wood, 100% success rate at court. Everyone we've taken to court, we've won the case against. They've got a variety of backgrounds. We've got some ex-police, ex-trading standards, ex-benefit, fraud investigators, all sorts of different things. My team liaise, we do all the awareness raising, all the publicity, lots of training of partner agencies, and most importantly, all the victim and witness support. So hand-holding people through the court process, trying to get their lives back on track. We've also got an intelligence team who just look at the desk-based intelligence work on these people, trying to build up a picture of who they are and where they're lending. And we've got financial investigators as well, because we don't just prosecute the loan shark, we also take away their shiny things. So we'll use proceeds of crime legislation to try and get their ill-gotten gains and remove them from them as well.
And the good news for our viewers tuning in, you've got a 100% prosecution rate.
Touch wood.
That's really good. So someone watching now, how would I go about spotting a loan shark? They don't walk around, as you say, with signs on, but are there some characteristics that I might identify with?
Definitely. The first thing to remember is anybody can be a loan shark. So there's been prosecutions of 80-year-old ladies who've been loan sharks. It doesn't have to be your skinhead thug type down the pub. It can literally be anybody. The things to look out for, the biggest clue for us would be a lack of paperwork. So any loan you take out, you should have paperwork for. Loan sharks, it's very informal lending. It's very casual lending. They don't tend to give paperwork. Some do to try and make themselves look legitimate, but by and large, they don't give paperwork. That would be the biggest trigger. Any sign of threats or intimidation around paying that back. And also a loan that just keeps growing, a loan that you think you've paid off, but you're still there every week, every month making your payments. That would be
And you mentioned that a moment ago about those amounts just continuing to grow without your knowledge.
Absolutely. And a lot of loan shark victims live hand to mouth. It's very much about what they can afford today and tomorrow and not necessarily the bigger picture. And some people are astounded when we sit down with them and work out exactly how much they've paid back.
Now, you mentioned about the lady with the wheelchair, the elderly lady with the wheelchair. Would they take such items as passports and bank cards, driving licenses, I'm just thinking?
Absolutely. It's all about gaining control over people's lives. So you can imagine, particularly in communities maybe of migrant workers, the way to control somebody is to take their passport, because then they're going to have trouble accessing work and they're going to have trouble going back home as well. We've seen that. We've certainly seen bank cards that have been taken. So then they actually control your finances. They know when you get paid or when your benefits go in, they'll remove the entire amount and give you 20 or 30 pounds to live off. That's all. And it is about gaining control of people's lives very much.
So their primary goal for a lot of them is not allowing you to settle up your debt.
Absolutely.
You may have taken that £100, you might have taken that 250. If I'm going to play a game with you, I'm going to take your 250 and then I'm going to just
keep going, basically. Keep going.
So we're now on to reporting a loan shark. We've got a lot of information there. So how would someone go about reporting a loan shark?
So we have a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week hotline, which is manned by an investigator at all times. So you get through to a human being. It's not a call centre. We don't get that many calls. It's a human being on the end of the phone who wants to talk to you. And we will take information anonymously. We'll take it in confidence. We understand how hard it is for someone to put their head above the parapet and say, help me, I'm the victim of a loan shark. But just having that conversation sometimes is massively freeing for people, because quite often they've told nobody about this debt. They've been isolated, they've not told friends or family what's going on. So what we'd say to people is have a conversation with us and let us tell you how we can help. So the hotline's 0300 555 2222.
Great, and we've got that telephone number and we've got it on the end slide of today's broadcast, and we've also got the links at the bottom on reporting.
Fantastic.
So that's great. You talked briefly there about harassing. Now, this is when it's starting to get really serious. So if you are being harassed by a loan shark, what would your advice be to the viewers watching this?
I think if you're in immediate danger, call 999. With the best will in the world, we're not a police force. We can't protect life in the same way the police can. They're local, that they need to get to you faster. So call 999 if you're in danger. If you're not in immediate danger, but you're starting to feel under massive amounts of pressure and it's building and you don't know what to do, just give us a ring and let us have a chat with you. My team will come out and meet you. We're not investigators. You're not making a statement at this point.
Do you meet them in their house, or do you meet at a location that they are happy to meet you
wherever they're happy with. If they want us to go to their house, that's fine. We don't turn up in police cars either, because we're not police. We could be anybody, but we'll meet people in cafes. We'll arrange a local office, a housing office, CAB, anything like that, whatever suits them.
So the control still keeps with the person that's made that
Absolutely.
contact, meeting in the location where they want to.
Yes.
Because loan sharks here can get quite nasty, can't they? They may resort, as you say, intimidation, threats, violence.
Absolutely, we have seen it. In extreme cases, I would say there's a spectrum of illegal lenders. You've got your organised crime groups at this end, where we've taken out firearms, where we've had people who've been kidnapped and blackmailed, and serious sort of threats and intimidation. And at the other end, you've got your lending where maybe they're only lending to 10 or 15 people, charging double bubble, so you pay back twice what you borrow, lending on an estate, no threats or intimidation, but still controlling people, still talking about, well, if you can't pay me this week, I can't lend Janice some money and I'll have to tell her why, and still illegal because they're without the authorisation.
Are they using language like, if you don't pay, you'll go to prison?
We have had that, which is absolutely not true. The loan
because
sharks,
they're not a proper financial institution, are they?
Absolutely, absolutely. So they've got no right to say that to you. There is no criminal action that will ever be taken against the victim, but it's all about the psychological warfare. But we're very clear the loan shark is the one who has acted illegally, not the victim. They're a victim of crime, and they need help and support.
So we're trying to offer some people some hope here on different ways of borrowing, and there are outlets for that. What would your advice be?
I think the first thing is we work with a lot of debt advice agencies, and their biggest thing is don't ever borrow to get out of debt. You're much better having conversations with your creditors and working out repayment plans and so on than you are borrowing from a loan shark or anybody else to get out of debt. It's heartbreaking, really. We've had victims who've borrowed from a loan shark because they've got rent arrears. Whereas if they'd just spoken to the social housing provider, they'd have arranged repayment plans quite happily with no interest charged. So that's the big thing. In terms of borrowing, we partner up with credit unions across the country. Loan shark loans tend to be small amounts of money, £300-400, which the banks don't tend to want to lend anyway. They tend to want to lend bigger amounts.
And the credit unions, they can help you save and only borrow what you can afford.
Absolutely. They will do affordability checks on people. There's a savings requirement normally, so quite often you have to save for so long before you can borrow. Some credit unions will do where you repay your loan, and on top of the repayment you pay £2, which goes into savings, so they're building up some savings for you at the same time. Some credit unions do jam jar accounts where you can budget, where they'll keep certain pockets of money for gas, electric, rent, and help people budget that way. They're brilliant organisations. They all work slightly differently. They respond to the communities they're in, but they're our key partner really in terms of getting rid of loan sharks in the future.
Great. And lastly, I would have said about knowing your entitlements. So if you are on low income, you might not know financially what you're entitled to, what benefits you're entitled to. And again, we've got a link through to that. Thank you very much, Kath, for coming in today.
Absolute pleasure.
Giving us the lowdown on these nasty loan sharks. My thanks to Catherine for joining me today. Remember, if your income is low, you have a poor credit rating, or you only need to borrow a small amount of money for a short while, there are still reputable lenders you can turn to instead of loan sharks. For further information, and there's lots of it, about today's conversation, please follow all the links that accompany this broadcast. I'm Paul Norris, this is Hiblio TV, and we thank you for watching.